Well, hello everyone. How are you? I'm Dave Kelly and welcome to Conversation Matters. This is something we're going to be doing for a while, and today we get to start the Conversations Matter conversation with a very special guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jocelyn and then I'm going to bring her in. Jocelyn Flanagan, as some of you know, started and founded Equals MC Squared with an event in Calgary, Alberta, just months before 9/11. Great time to start an event company. But 19 years later, Jocelyn and her team have grown that small company into an award-winning international company with offices in Toronto, in Calgary, and in Vancouver. And they do over 100 events a year and win all kinds of awards as she has. Let's bring her in, Jocelyn Flanagan. Hi, Joss. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Good, thanks.
Did I get it right-ish? Did I get my intro correct?
Yeah.
Did I do it?
Yeah, you did it well. I've known you for 18 and a half or plus more of those years. So
Yeah.
if you didn't get it right, we've done something wrong together. I think we're good.
Hey, and we also have another great friend of ours joining us. We don't see her face, but we see her heart and her art. Mandy Stobo is also an award-winning, internationally renowned visual artist, and she's doing some work for us today, Joss.
She is. Thanks so much, Mandy. She's amazing, and we'll get to see her style throughout the next 45 minutes to an hour.
There's nobody like Mandy, and she has got great talent and great heart, and she's just going to follow our conversation and help it happen. Now, Joss, conversations matter. Why?
Whew. Well, I think, they've always mattered to me. They've always mattered to great things happen in conversation. I mean, obviously, what are we without it? But, from a business philosophy, it's been particularly important that none of us know everything. We can't all be experts in any of our fields. So we do need to have that collaborative conversation at all times. So from the day one that, we started the business, it was, let's bring the smartest people in the room together. Yeah. And it's, the best things happen when we're not the smartest people in the room. And we're just collecting, great guidance everywhere.
And it feels to me, because I don't know if you know this, but there's a bit of a pandemic going on.
Hadn't heard.
But if there's a time for people to feel like hiding or feel like going into their basement and putting a little studio in there or anything like that, that actually getting out and having conversations is more important now than ever, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And at the same time, I have found myself hiding in and out of conversation. And what I've, certainly I've been navigating and observing a lot of different behaviors, and mine included. And the more conversations I have, the more engaged I am, the better energy I have. And I think that's true for all of us, and it's true industry-wide, and it's true sort of humanity-wide. But to me personally, it's really important to have conversations and have these kinds of conversations.
When I was, for you, what was it? All of us have our COVID story. Was there a moment or a time when you realized, wait a minute, this is bigger and is gonna change everything?
I think we could feel it coming. I think everybody could sort of feel the wave, and we were talking to clients and sort of every day the conversations with clients were changing. And, should we not cancel? No, let's see. And we sort of felt like we were walking on thinner and thinner ice. And it was the morning of March the 12th. I was waking up early to get on a flight to go to Saskatoon to the Junos. And although I planned on waking up at 6, I woke up at 4 a.m, happened to look at my phone, as we all do. Right. And at 4 a.m, there was a message saying, Junos are canceled. And that was my pure wake-up call, thinking, okay, this is about to get real. And there was a trickle-down effect that at 4 a.m. on March the 12th.
I remember I just hosted a big event in Miami, and there sort of was rumblings there, flew in on the Monday, and then on the 11th was when they announced they're canceling the NBA. And I remember like, what?
Yeah.
The entire league? And that's when I was like, okay, the little events that I'm hosting, if the NBA's canceling, something big's coming. And it was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. And very early morning, obviously a few hours later, Trevor on my team sent me a note, said, what do you need? And I said, I need a drink. And that was at about 7 o'clock in the morning. And Trevor met me at the office and we had some Prosecco and we just watched and waited and talked to clients, and I gathered everyone in that, our friends and team in Toronto together and spent the whole day together. And we knew, that was the end of life as we knew it. I just got goosebumps thinking about that moment because it was an interesting day. And,
Yeah.
we had 11 events cancel within 12 hours. And yeah, it was a shock to the system.
We're gonna go back and look through that in a sec, but we talked about hard truths when we were sharing that we were going to have this conversation. Give us the hard truth. What's your sense of the industry today?
Well, it is a hard truth, and I think everyone has come to terms with the idea of going back to normal. It's not a term anymore. I think that people are using, and the industry is going to has had a quantum shift and will sort of continue to do so.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not seeing you live. I'm seeing you very large size and a screen in front of me. And you look great, by the way. But we're in a really tough spot. And I know we'll talk about industry advocacy and whatnot. But where we are right now is there will be lots of these virtual remote events for some time to come. There will be a mix of events. I mean, we just had a live event last week, but they're smaller, they're different. Some of them will be in cars, some of them will be very few people talking to a screen, talking to more people, very the hybrid term. And slowly but surely we will get back to a semblance of what we had. We have to be really patient, and we have to all sort of guide ourselves according to what's going on out there. It is tough. It's a hard place for our industry and hospitality and sports and everything to be in right now.
Yeah. And it's no different. The thing that blows me away personally about this is there's big multinational companies that are going, I don't know what to do. And there's people that design centerpieces that don't know what to do. Like everyone is like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hitting so many different industries and at various times. Right. And it's tricky to watch. It's hard to be in, obviously. And I think there's been a lot of empathy created out there. What's interesting for me is people that I haven't talked to in a long time, or comments that I'm hearing. That there's one thing that our industry is, there's a light being shone on our industry in the live event space, whether it is sports or concerts or even our industry. So there's a lot of talk out there. So I think they say no press is bad press. So the fact is our industry is being spoken about a lot in corners that we never would have had any publicity before. It's just, unfortunately, we're not sure what they're saying, because there is no crystal ball that is going to tell us what we're going to see on the other side.
Speaking of what we're going to see, I think we should mention that I'm in my little home place. If that's your basement, Joss, you got a swanky basement. We should mention.
Mandy comes into it every day. Splatters paint on my basement wall.
You should tell folks where you are, because we want to thank them, but also just so that people get a sense of what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. So Bespoke AV, really great friends, partners of ours. So they have created this virtual studio for us to be here, and just obviously really grateful as one of our industry partners and to be able to do this. And obviously thanks to you, Dave. We've worked together for many, many, many years. And I've seen you in action, and it's a little bit intimidating sitting on this side, not with my headset on in the back of the room.
Saying, get out there and talk, Dave. Now it's you. Well, on that though, you're the leader and you run this company and you're this businesswoman and an entrepreneur, but you're also just in the middle of this as a human being going, so how are you feeling?
Yeah. There's so many feelings. So I think, vulnerable right now. And I think one of is perplexed a feeling. I think it is. I'm feeling every day is a really different emotional journey for me. And that's, from a business side of things, we'll get really, really exciting phone calls, and all of a sudden we're really busy and thinking that things are going to be amazing. And then, then we hear maybe of another delay or another, hundreds of cases of COVID. And then, so we're backpedaling and we're not sure where government sits and whatnot. And every day it's perplexing. I think I have some answers in the morning. By the time noon rolls around, I forgot what the answers were. And then I go to bed with different questions, and I wake up with different answers than I had the day before. So that's also why conversations matter, so that when I don't feel like I'm going crazy all the time with all these different thoughts and scenarios. Obviously, I'm putting myself through numerous scenarios every day on, well, what might tomorrow be? What might 3 months look like down the road? What are we going to look like in 6 months? So I think that's one of the feelings. I'm sad. I'm sad a lot in terms of, I spent 19 and a half years building a live event business and building it with great people around me and building it with, with success, but loving the space, loving the industry. And there's a grief right now. There's a grief of daily not waking up, doing what I love to do, waking up, trying to find ways to love what I am doing. And also grieving for my staff, who I think could rely heavily on the fact that I had a lot of answers and a lot of security, and it is a sad time. It's a sad time when I don't have the answers, and I can't provide a direction right now. In a confident way, I'm doing what I can, and so I'm sad on that level. I'm grateful also. I'm grateful for the amazing people I have on my team that understand where I'm at, and they're lifting me up in many ways. And I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for everyone that is reaching out and understanding that we as an industry are in a tough spot, and therefore I personally am. So, and then there's so many of these emotions that weave in and out of my day. And then I'm excited because, I'm not one of those eternal optimists, but I do understand. I firmly believe that there are possibilities out there. I believe that we're in a unique time, and nobody wants to repeat this time. But I believe as humanity, if we're not taking opportunities that are in front of us to breathe, to assess, to self-assess, to look at the world around us, look at like what the industry can be, I think we're missing out. So I think there is some hope in my feelings. It's sometimes muted by fear, sad, anger, all the other ones, but there's a bit of that.
Well, and it's funny, I was thinking about your company, and what you do is you create feelings more than anything, right? You create an experience that evokes feelings. So you're an expert at saying, okay, we're going to make this client or this group or this organization feel something. And suddenly here you are saying, I don't even know what I feel, let alone how to make anything else. It's a naughty time, tricky. How, and I wanted this conversation to happen now when we still don't have answers, because to me that's part of this. Is it's not like we're going to sit here and go, so anyway, by Tuesday everything's going to be worked out, so that's good. But that we're all still finding our way, and if we get anything out of today, it's to say, yeah, we are in this, and let's see where we go. There's no way we can compare this to other events, because it is, although you hate the word unprecedented, I think I'm never going to say unprecedented or pivot one more time.
Thank you.
Well, however, let's look back at, I know you've been through a lot of ups and downs in your industry. So let's look at one, just to sort of see if there's anything we can glean out of that. So the big crash in 2008, at that point, let's go right before it. Things were going well for E in Calgary. Sort of describe the upside. What were things like before everything's ground to a halt in 2008?
Sure. Well, those were the glory days. If we want to go back to the beautiful time, let's go back to 2007, Calgary, oil and gas, $150 barrel, $150 barrel per barrel, versus now that's a whole other story. But the oil and gas industry was on such a tremendous ride, and that our only office was in Calgary at that time. And we were very, very lucky, and that's a whole other conversation to talk about all those fun times we were having back then. And then the rug was pulled. Then 2008 hit, and it hit the world in very different ways, and sort of a ripple effect of timing. And it really hit us into 2009, 2010 is when we could feel the crisis happen to our industry. Really, again, that was local for us at that time. But we had grown at that point. I think we were about 20 staff. We had to cut our team back tremendously. To be less than half of what we were. We had to scale back every way possible. We were, given that was our first real pandemic in our mind, we didn't react as quickly as we should have. We learned a lot in that moment. But the industry changed. The events obviously took a big hit at that time, and we had to navigate our way through, budgets that were a tenth of the size of what they used to be, or, and really work on the psychology and the human behavior of even how to navigate that with our clients at that time. And events ended up looking different. The client side looked different. And it was, to me, it was a really interesting opportunity to talk about perspectives and perceptions, and what do events mean, and the narrative of the event industry. We were able to help shape that a little bit in this time of crisis. And because
it would seem to me at that point, events is like the marketing, right? When budgets get cut, they say, okay, we're just not going to have events, and we'll cut the marketing budget, and we'll see in a couple of years. But you had to really change people's mind about that.
Yeah, and I think that was a hard thing to do, but also a really important thing to do, that we, as the event industry was also growing at that time, and all trying to navigate this world. And it was really bothersome to me when people would come up to me, friends, clients, neighbors, whoever, and say, yeah, I guess you guys really, you're the first to go, because you're the superfluous piece of the puzzle when it comes to any corporation or any industry. And I thought, you know what? No, we've got to stand tall here, and we've got to shore up our narrative and talk about what events are, and what our event industry is all about, and why they exist. And it isn't the superfluous fluff, if you will, or they're just parties. These are purposeful, content-driven, leadership-driven, meaningful events that we're always driving towards. And it was an interesting, opportunity. And I think from 2008 to now, it has woven that way, and events just aren't a tactic on the bottom of the rung anymore. They're actually woven into strategic conversations at the top of corporations. So I think it was interesting to be part of that wave, if you will, and help sort of propagate that message.
How did you end up with offices across Canada?
Well, that was stemmed out of our need to diversify. Also, we were obviously tied very much to oil and gas when we started, and we were lucky. We're very lucky. One of my favorite quotes is, "Opportunity dances with those who are already on the dance floor." And in my mind, we had opportunities. We were going to do an event. We're producing an event in Vancouver, a big fundraising event in Vancouver, and the day I was flying out to Vancouver, an event company decided to shut their doors and not exist anymore because they had just come off of the recession wave. And we had an opportunity to just sort of jump right in and fill some large shoes that were already in Vancouver. So that was a really great opportunity at the right time, and for us to do. And then likewise, a similar opportunity came up in Toronto, where we were asked to produce an event in Toronto, and I thought, okay, let's see what happens out there. And it was the right decision, the right time, and we were completely diversified within 2 years after the recession. So some of it was opportunity. People, congratulated me for my strategic thinking, and I just thought, well, no, there were some great events that we could put on there. Yeah. But it worked out well, and it certainly helped us create a completely different market for ourselves.
Well, and watching you, it feels to me like part of that was you had your eyes up. You weren't kind of going into a shell and hiding as much as you had your eyes up, even though the economy was crumbling and people were coming to you with budgets that were far less than what you were normally working with. At least your eyes were up enough to go, okay, we got to keep going forward. Because obviously that's what people are trying to deal with now.
Yeah, and so as you said, we can't compare a 2008 global financial crisis to the pandemic, but there are similarities in terms of industry shift and how to navigate through very, very muddy waters where we can't see what's on the other side. And I think maybe at the beginning of this, we thought, okay, just like then, in a few months, we'll know what's happening. And then a few months into this, where we are now, we still don't know what's on the other side. So we're obviously learning that it's going to be a much longer ride. And as as an industry together, we still have to tell the narrative and shift that narrative, but together, so that we can come out of this as an industry, I think, as a whole unit. There's lots of opportunities in times like this for the divide and conquer and the dog eat dog world, and everybody fight for everything that they can, and that's understandable. At the same time, if we try to make sure that we're speaking the same language and the industry is supporting each other, and we're continuing to move forward, whatever we look like on the end of it, and you're part of our industry, Dave, whatever we as an industry look like, we need to do it, in a friendly manner and in a compassionate manner. And so we can look back at this time and think, you know what, we did come together and got through.
Yeah. It's tricky. So let's talk about now. So COVID hits, events. First of all, explain, because for folks that are watching that are dealing with their own company and continuing to deal with clients and suppliers, how did you handle your suppliers, and how did you handle the folks who were hiring you when in March, April, May of this year?
Yeah, so obviously it was so hard. And I felt like we're all in such a fog at that time. Unwinding events takes as much, if not more time than producing them. And we had a lot of unwinding to do. And in all of that unwinding, I believe that everyone, client side, vendor side, partner side, our side, I think I'm very proud that we all came out, I think, fairly treated on the other side of that piece. For us, first and foremost, it was important for our suppliers, our vendor partners, to be treated fairly. That was that was like my number one, or our company number one, was we have to make sure that our partners are whole and safe, and they're, you know, and obviously they need to treat us fairly, which they all did across the country. But and our clients respected that also. So it was important for us to have the conversations with our clients, and truthful ones, saying, okay, here's where we're at. Here's, you know, yes, the work that's been done to date, but here's, we need our partners the next time we're going to be, when we're all together again. Let's try to keep ourselves as whole as we can to get through. So to me, there was lots of conversations with our suppliers and our vendors, and then with our clients. Again, the conversations then were, okay, so we'll just cut next year. We'll just do the same event, and we'll just put it forward to next year. And that was a really exciting conversation, because yeah, you know, we've done a lot of work now, and we'll just put it in a little box, and we'll open that box up. We don't even need to talk to you for 8 months or so. And then we'll just roll out the carpet, literally.
Yeah.
and voila, we have an event. Those conversations 6 months later are now different with those clients, saying, okay, well, now we have to, you know, open that box and shake it and flip it upside down and put in a few monitors into it so that it can become virtual. And how do we do that? So the client, you know, but equally the conversations with the clients, the events are important. The purpose is still there. The same purpose as why you were getting together live is even almost more so purposeful now. And the content that we were going to share then has to be shared now. And we can't delay. You know, I think there's some people or some clients, again, thinking, well, if we can't do an event in January, then we just won't do it. No, you can't not do it. You can't not honor the people you're going to honor. You can't not teach the people you're going to teach. You can't market the people you're going to market. We have to move forward. Yeah. So these events, in whatever shape or form they're taking, are almost more important now than they were when we were expected to do them.
How do you deal with, I have other questions, but I'm just hearing you talk. How do you deal with money? And I'll say why I ask that. Because everyone can say, well, we're just going to be fair and kind, and we're going to do this, and maybe it's not this year, but it's next year, but it's still important. But I'm aware now in all of the conversations, people are also saying, and we need our deposits back, and we don't have a retainer anymore, and we're just going to talk. And you, like, how do you deal with the money side?
Whew.
That's a light, fluffy question.
This was not anticipated. Did you ask Ellen hard questions like this?
I did. I said, when are you going to start creating a toxic work environment? And she said, we're on it. Don't worry. That is not true. She did not say that.
Gosh.
Because that doesn't that like.
No, it's hard. They're tricky conversations. And one, as a business leader and business owner, you know, I've spent a lot of time thinking I should have done things better. I should have been smarter in this respect. I should have, you know, known the answer before it was asked. And then I look at the likes of airlines or hotels, or that when I think of, okay, well, I've paid for that Lady Gaga ticket that I was supposed to see in May in Vegas, and I didn't get that money back. And I have to spend, you know, so I've got this credit to go and see this show, or, you know, there's all this talk about credit. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not the only one then that needs to talk about credit for their clients and how to use that credit. So I stopped beating myself up for for having those conversations, because I was pretty hard on myself when I was looking at some of those situations. Now, obviously, we had, because of how we do our work, we do disperse payments for our clients. So we do have a lot of our clients' money, and we were able to, take that and give that back for a lot of the work that we did, that maybe hadn't been translated yet to the actual event. It's okay, we need to keep some of this as credit, and we need to put it towards next year. And so my amazing accounting and admin team and BD team that are like the spreadsheets that we have going all over the place were really quite something. And again, more things that we get to learn along the way in this journey that I didn't really think I needed to learn or wanted to learn. But it's hard, but again, back to the whole conversation, is the more transparent of a conversation you can have with vendors and staff and clients, the better everybody is, because we're all in the same position. It just happens to be a different widget that we're either paying back for, paying forward, waiting for, crediting for. So there was some solace in the fact that every industry is having these same conversations.
Well, and I'm aware, even in teams that I'm working with, that money conversations very quickly are personal. And so it's not just, how's the Excel spreadsheet going to look around this? It's somebody saying, if I don't get this, what am I doing for the mortgage? And someone else saying, if the company's not getting this, they're not going to keep me hired. Or someone else saying, I'm trying to feed my kids here. And so it's one of those, it's a universal situation. And obviously there's people in terrible straits that I'm not comparing myself to, but I'm aware that all of this stuff gets really personal really fast. It's not easy.
No.
Now, one of the things you folks did that I got to be part of is, in the midst of this COVID thing, in the midst of there's no dollars out there, and in the midst of everyone else in this industry saying, we can't do events at all, you guys, this happened in May, June, said, we're going to get involved and we're going to lead a charge in an incredible way for graduation. So for those that haven't heard the story, explain a bit about how this drive-through grad thing happened and what it did for your company.
Yeah, so this was, I think, a prime example of my team lifting me up, because while I couldn't think about, what was happening sort of around the corner, the team back in Calgary, who had grads and were devastated that they couldn't see their children walk across the stage, came up with this idea that we can do live events and we can do them in cars. And so let's create an experience where we do this drive-through graduation. And I thought, well, that sounds like a really interesting thing. It sounds really big. I have no idea how that's going to work. And watching that idea evolve was pure magic. And I was able to go to Calgary to watch the last day of the graduation. So we had, over 1,000 grade 12 grads walk across the stage, but being driven through photos, driven through on the stage, DJs, fun, car honking, FM transmission, like you're hearing your kids walk across the stage, do backflips on stage, and their friends out of the roofs of their cars. And again, when I got there, I'm sure I cried for the 2 hours straight that I watched this grad ceremony, because of this pure joy of these humans that were all together celebrating and honoring and being in the same space, even though they were cars apart. And that was back in June when the restrictions were so high. But it shone a light again on what the live event industry is and what we do have a purpose. And that purpose was so loud and clear on that. When that happened, it was just such a magical moment. So it was something cool to be a part of. And we're able to, again, just translate, like, how do we all continue to create this human connection?
Well, and My experience, I got to MC a few of them and work on some videos with the tremendous Mandy Stobo, who's doing our work for us today. And one of the things, and it's what he does. You said what you do over and over is you say, here's a venue, maybe it's a ballroom, maybe it's a field, whatever it is. In this case, it's a parking lot. It was just a big parking lot. There's nothing about it other than this is where you put cars. And somehow you transform that with a stage and some lights and video, but more than anything, with heart, so that all these people came in their car and they had all these stations they had to get through. And I bet you there were more tears and more joy and more gratefulness from those parents and those grads than the past 10 years of grads put together, because they were all aware of this is crazy times we're living in, and still they got to have that experience, which is exactly what you were talking about, that mattered, because they did get together, even though they're all cars apart, and even though they couldn't actually hug each other and they could only just look at each other in their cars, it was still something that was created, and it was a beautiful, amazing experience.
Yeah, it was neat. And that what we were able to do the same thing in boats, and create a boat in concert, which was extraordinary and fun. Very simple. Brett Kissel singing to 250 or so boats, and raising money for local charities. But and I was in one of the boats. My vantage point was from a boat, and just the pure joy that I was able to witness and feel around all of these people that were just craving for human interaction, even though, again, they were literally a boat away from people. There was no challenge in, yes, you are here. That's pretty much where I was. It was just really interesting, and just the gratitude of the people and the respect of each other. And I was saying, even back to the cars, back to the drive-in, if you were, anytime before COVID, if you were in a car behind 20 other cars to line up to get a photo taken, you would be honking, you'd be angry, you'd be frustrated, you'd be just so, waiting and so agitated. And this lineup, 20 cars deep, were so happy to be in their cars, going somewhere, doing something similar to the boat concert. If you were ever surrounded by that many boats on a regular day, even whether you had good music or not happening in your boat, you'd be really agitated. And yet it was just pure appreciation and respect and calm. It was really quite something to see.
I was aware with that those events took an inordinate amount of work and prep and regulations. And if, anyone listening who does events at all or is part of them, how everything has to work out in safety. Well, these were through the roof, and the money was a tenth. So, but at the same time, you were there and you had your head up, and the team said, we got to make this happen. So there is something that says money is huge, but in some situations you have to say, we just need to keep going somehow.
We do. Yes, but let's try to bring some budgets back.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You can't do it forever.
You're totally right. And there's moments where it's like, we just need to do this. We just need to bring some experiences to people. And what we're finding now, because we are in the virtual world, and those are two examples of things that we've been able to do, and we've been very fortunate to do and love doing. In the virtual world, what we've been able to shore up is also we know how much emotion is out there. We know that it's bottled up, and we need to, and what we're really trying to capture through the last 6 months and going forward, and how we're going to be creating more, better virtual events is still that human connection. And what is that? And how are we telling those stories so that we can get that emotion out? And I'm even finding in this virtual world that there is, even though there's Zoom fatigue and there's, we're all tired of looking at screens, there is still I believe, a higher level of appreciation for the efforts that are being put into virtual events, and maybe a little bit more compassion and understanding, because we all know we're trying new things. So if it, sometimes you're going to be watching a global leader and he's on mute, and where before, if that happened at a live event, there'd be so much frustration. And now we can go, we can sort of have a little bit more latitude, because I think there's just more compassion out there for what's going on in the world. And so while we don't want to rely on technology, it always goes wrong. We can't rest on those laurels. But what we're finding is there's, as we're trying new things, from an audience receptivity standpoint, there is a little bit more lightheartedness, I think, in general.
Is there, some people will say, well, now that we have Zoom, we don't need event producers because we just do a Zoom call, or we don't need event producers because there's a software that does it all and we just all show up at it. What's your take on your industry and your company with virtual?
Sure. We're back to the 2018 narrative shifting conversation. And I think that's the answer is, for us, I mean, the storytelling, the emotional connection, the human connection is something that isn't, you don't just get by turning on Zoom. And no disrespect to Zoom, because it has changed the world. There's no question about it. And the multiple platforms that exist out there are there for us to build into. And so from an event professional standpoint and the event industry standpoint, we have a bigger job, a little bigger job to sell ourselves, but even once we're sold, we do have a bigger job to create that emotion in a 2D way, to bring it alive. But that's, that is sort of that's the fun part. That's sort of why do I get out of bed now, is when I'm talking to clients and trying to come up with those ideas. And it's still, and one of our team members in Calgary, Dwayne, we've got national meetings every week, and he posed the question. He said, you know what? I wasn't sure why we still were needed until I did one of these. And then I realized what we do virtually is exactly what we do live from a show production standpoint. We still create the narrative. We're still working with the energy. You need more energy direction when you're talking to people via screen, as opposed to feeling it in the room. So I would, we're all learning as we go here. And I think we're learning sort of on a day-to-day basis why we're needed as much now, if not more.
Well, like you say, there you go through happy, sad, glad, afraid, scared, moving on. And then when you're back into okay, let's make something happen, then you do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who have some questions, and I'm not going to forget Canada's Day of Visibility, which is today. I'll take a couple of questions. I don't want to talk about that, and then we'll take some more questions. So these are different people who have sent in, who have been part of the conversation. Ken wants to know, how is he navigating the current situation and plans for the future? And I'm going to bring in Sheldon's too. How has he seen plans for 2021? So just tell us about plans for the future. And then as you look to 2021, what are you feeling and seeing?
Yeah, as I said, it's hard to know what next week brings, let alone 6 months. But I'll jump to maybe 2021, and I think we all know this, that I think we were all months ago hopeful that by January, we just need to make it to January, and and we'll get there. And once we get there, then everything will carry on. And I would say as late as last week, I thought, well, if we get to September, we've got lots of big plans for September. So we just need to get there. And I guess just, I need to be cautiously optimistic, but that by Q4 of 2021, we might have hundreds of people in a room together. Until then, I think that we probably won't. And I know some of the, concerts are now canceled until 2022, a number of them that we're hearing about. But what I'm excited about is there's some opportunities with this hybrid model, and where it's live and virtual and connecting, and there's ways that we can connect. I'm going to sound so patriotic right now, but connect our country and the people in our country in really unique ways, where we might have done an award show that everybody comes to one city, whatever that city is. And now we can actually bring all the cities together and all the regions together to celebrate whatever industry it is that we need to celebrate, so that we can, and the interesting thing is, this isn't new technology. We've done this over the years, but we just didn't call it a virtual or hybrid event. We have connected Vancouver and Halifax together in a Calgary event, and we've connected. So, but the fact is, I think we can take this opportunity to celebrate our corporate or our associations or whatnot. And no, we don't all need to be 1,000, 2,000 people in a room, but we can have 200 or 300 people per room, per region, per area, and do things a little bit differently. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there. And I know that might scare people, think, well, that's 10 times the budget if we're doing 10 events as opposed to one. That doesn't have to be that way, just so we're clear. But to me, there's some interesting scenarios there. That's where I get hopeful, and we all need to have a bit more of an open mind when it comes to that. In terms of what E equals MC squared events looks like in 6 months and a year, I don't know that. I know that, we also are navigating our cash flow on a daily basis, and that's the scary part, and that's the sad part, and that's the just the reality is we need to be flexible and understand, sort of look and see what's around the corner, and our team is amazing, and we're trying to build what's around the corner and coming up with some unique ideas. But I think that I don't believe we're going to be 1,000 people in a room together in 2021. I'm not feeling it, but several hundred, yes. And let's just create more of those.
Yeah, it's, I'm in the, yes, I agree. And it's a dance. There's a couple more questions, but before we do, I don't want to forget, Canada's Day of Visibility is today. Maybe explain to people a bit of what that is, so that if they don't know, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think this comes to the industry advocacy. Today, September 22nd, you will see venues, concert venues, any live event venues, theaters, lit up in red today. And that is, it's really important to us. The live event industry, obviously, as we all know, has been hit hard. And this is this movement, and there's many, but it's everyone that works behind the scenes, that they were literally the first to lose their job, and in many cases the last that get to come back into work. And it's a really hard place for our behind the scenes crew that are so crucial to what we do on a day-to-day basis. But when you can't go into a theater, and you can't operate a stage, you can't go into a concert venue, these folks are struggling, and this is a day to light up live events. And you will look outside any city that you're in across the country, and after dusk, I believe that's when all these venues are being lit up. Some venues, however, I have learned, you can't even go inside. Not allowed inside to turn the light on. And so a lot of our venue friends and colleagues are putting lights in their homes and social media and whatnot. So that's just a big shout out to all of everyone that we need. Trevor on my team pointed out, if you watch the credits of a TV show, and they're very, 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 very long, and it's everyone on that list that we're honoring and supporting with this cause.
And it's worthy, and again, it doesn't take away from all other people's challenges, but all of those theaters that people get together and talk and laugh and cry and be part of something, that all happened because there was a crew running around backstage, and there was lighting people in the grid, and there was people with headphones on, and all those people have had nothing for months. And so we don't want recognizing that there's a lot of big issues out there, and this isn't the only one. We're aware that for those people, this is a deal, and today's a big day.
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to ask this question, and it's a little technical, I know, but only because I did not even know I knew these French words until a few months ago. And Jan sent this in. How do you deal with force majeure issues? There's honestly, I did not, so when it comes to contracts or work like that, how do you deal with that?
Well, what's coming out of this, and I know we've asked folks to share what they want to talk about, because there's so much in all of these conversations that we can have. And so Jan, we might have to sidebar that, but what is absolutely true is contracts all over, every contract that we'll see going forward is going to be changed. Cancellation clauses are going to be changed. Well, I mean, we've had 6 months already in the midst to change this. So how do we deal with force majeure clauses that, it's a tough one. I mean, they're all going to be put into contracts, and then all of a sudden everyone's calling a force majeure. And I think I personally, I can't answer that to, it's not to really great ability yet. Because if everyone has force majeure clauses, then does that just mean everybody gets to put their hands up in the air? And then who's on the hook for what, when, how? So I don't know the answer to that yet, but I do know that, everyone is looking into that. What I also know is that has been very helpful for, as I said, we had 11 live events cancel within 12 hours. And the force majeure did get a lot of our clients their money back when it came to large venues, which was incredible. And the fact that those were respected. And force majeure, as you said, not many people would even know what those words meant, let alone understand that they were on page 24 in a 48-page contract. But when they were used, they were respected. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. But I mean, they have to be. It's contract, but that's a tricky one.
My kids use it at bedtime now. Sorry, Dad, force majeure. That's not my issue. It's yours. You figure it out. So
the handshake deal, the handshake deal, or the pay me after the event, those days, I won't say they're gone, but they're certainly going to be thought about more on all sides, and rightly so. But
Speaking of the questions, Sarah, Trevor, and Carrie are part of your team. A lot of people watching know them, and they're working on the questions, but they're also part of they're in the boat with you. How has this time been for you with these very key people and key relationships, and how are you feeling about being able to look at them and go, these people are with me?
Well, you've named 3, Dave, but there's a lot more than 3. So they happens to be the one working on this piece, and they're incredible humans. But there's so many. We've got an amazing team. Like there's 28 strong that are in the boat. And that's when I go back to the emotions. It is grateful and sad. And one thing that I've had to tell everybody around me is that we all need to look out for ourselves right now, and my team needs to look out for themselves right now. And in uncertain times, people need to put themselves first And I've
Mhm.
been so lucky over the years that people have provided me possibly more loyalty than themselves. And so what I share with them is that they have to look after themselves but in the perfect world, we're all looking at ourselves in the same boat going forward. Just we're going over some really big waves right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. There's so many other people that are in this and that are watching. And I know for those of you who sent in questions, we're going to have to pause, but that doesn't mean if whatever questions you've sent in, we'll apply those to other conversations. And I want to say, I wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget. October 21st is our next webinar. Although Carrie put a note, unless we have an event that day. But October 21st, we're going to do another one of these, and registration will be soon enough. But if you want to know more info, please just go to your website, emc2events.com, and there'll be lots more conversation matters, equals MC, or on social at emc2events. We also should very much thank Mandy Stobo. Isn't she great, our Mandy?
Amazing.
She is some wonderful. Yes. Bespoke, who made you. I mean, you're just beautiful as it is, but a beautiful space you got to work in, and that team that made this all happen. It's so good. Conversations like this, and I so appreciate you, Joss, not least of which because you introduced me to my bride, to the beautiful Blythe Butler 20 years ago, but also because you are somebody who just keeps your feet moving. And that's what a leader does. And there's a lot of people who take inspiration from that and understand that that's part of the game. And this conversation is not saying, well, we got to the end, now what? It's we're in the middle of this and we're in the rough water, but we still all need to connect. So thank you for taking the time to Jocelyn Flanagan. Anyone else anything else we need to say, Joss? Anything you want to do? Anything you need to sell? Anything at all?
No, I just thank you so much, Dave. And again, just the conversations, and obviously I can't see any of the questions or comments coming, but they're very important to us. And these conversations, we do want to hear from our friends, our clients, our colleagues of what are the topics that we can all talk about, and we're going to be doing it in different formats so we can actually have conversations, not just pushing out chat rooms here. So we will be reaching out to everyone and doing our best to answer questions, and with answering questions comes more questions. So this is going to be a very very evolving dialogue. So thank you, Dave. Thanks, Mandy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bespoke, and thanks to my whole team.
And it's nice to have, I'll make an official endy thing to make it seem official endy, but it doesn't end. This never ends. We do need to keep talking, especially when I'm feeling scared or sad or unsure. Sitting and talking to you makes me feel better, and talking to anyone can do the same for all of us. So let's make sure we all keep our conversations going. Thanks, Joss.